Masters of the Universe was a highly successful Mattel toy line released in 1982, and if you were a kid growing up in the 80s, chances are you owned or played with a Masters of the Universe action figure and watched the animated series. Masters of the Universe was actually the first syndicated show to be based on a toy. The animated series He-Man and the Masters of the Universe was released through Filmation Animated Studios. The series would debut in September of 1983 and ran for 2 seasons. The show was a ratings success, and by 1984 was one of the biggest kids shows on TV. He-Man and the Masters of the Universe was groundbreaking, and it was the first animated kids show to feature a muscular superhero who actually hit people, but very rarely would He-Man use a sword on his enemies. The show would spawn a spin-off series titled She-Ra, Princess of Power, a series about He-Man's sister, Princess Adora. This series would also produce a highly successful toy line. Due to the incredible success of He-Man and the Masters of the Universe, Mattel wanted to develop a live-action film version of the series as early as 1984. Mattel, along with producer Edward Pressman, would peddle the project to a number of studios. Pressman was interested in the property before the cartoon was even aired, and purchased the movie rights of the Mattel characters. Originally, Warner Brothers were going to be involved with Howard Cassingen, producer of Raiders of the Lost Ark. After Warner Brothers dropped the project, Universal showed interest in the project, but it was Cannon Studios who would get the project after their acceptable offer. After the film was greenlit, Mattel would make a deal with Cannon. Cannon at this time originally had plans to make a Spider-Man movie, but opted instead to do 2 movies, Masters of the Universe and Superman 4, The Quest for Peace. Their plan was to make a profit from both movies and make a big budget Spider-Man movie. However, due to these 2 films failing at the box office, the Cannon-produced Spider-Man movie was never produced. For the script, David Odell, whose writing credits included The Dark Crystal and Supergirl, was hired to begin writing the screenplay. His first draft of the script was set entirely on Eternia and Snake Mountain, and was a lot more faithful to the animated series, but due to budget constraints, it was decided to set the movie mostly on Earth to reduce the number of sets used on a limited budget. For the final draft of the script, a number of original characters were deleted and replaced, including Battlecat, who was going to be an animatronic version, but this would be way too costly. The characters Man-at-Arms and Teela were kept in the script. The hovering magical character, Orko, was deleted from the story because, like the Battlecat, would have been too expensive to create. They replaced Orko with Gwildor, an annoying Yoda-like character played by Billy Barty. The script even left out the royal family, King Randor, Queen Marlena, and Prince Adam, the true identity of He-Man. The character Beastman was changed to a mindless beast who doesn't speak and is very loyal to Skeletor, where in the animated series he was always scheming and disloyal to Skeletor. The character Evil Lynn was completely different in the film script and has romantic feelings for Skeletor, as opposed to the absolute contempt she has for him in the animated series. The script threw out many story elements from the series, including the fact that Eternians have never heard of Earth. In the series, it was revealed that He-Man's mother was originally from Earth, linking the 2 planets, Eternia and Earth, together. However, the Marvel Comics adaptation of the film would include this story element, which showed that Eternia had first been colonized by astronauts from Earth's future, including He-Man's mother. This element was taken out of the film. Writer Odell was loosely inspired by the Marvel Fantastic Four Doctor Doom epics, The New Gods. Director Gary Goddard originally wanted to hire comic book legend Jack Kirby to be the conceptual artist for the film. Goddard even tried to dedicate the film to Jack Kirby in the closing credits of the film. Masters of the Universe was Gary Goddard's directorial debut. Goddard was mostly known for creating a number of theme park rides, including Universal's Jurassic Park The Ride, Jaws, Star Trek The Experience, and the live stage shows Conan, and Ghostbusters. So many big plans were made by Mattel and Cannon, who wanted to make an epic film version of the hit series. The huge production featured incredible sets to represent Eternia, but due to budget concerns, the budget was cut, and to save money, more scenes on Earth were added. According to director Goddard, the script he received took place completely on Earth in order to keep the budget down. Goddard asked for more money, so they could at least show Eternia at the beginning and the end of the film. Cannon and Mattel agreed to this. More changes needed to be made to the film, and Skeletor's troops were changed to robot warriors, mainly due to Mattel stating early in the production that He-Man could not kill anyone on screen, and mainly because no one cares if a robot is killed. In 1984, Ralph Mcquarrie's original concept design for Skeletor was completely different than the final design of Skeletor in the film. In the concept art for the film, Skeletor is wearing a silver helmet and skull mask with red eyes and silver body armor. However, the Mcquarrie designs were never used. During pre-production, matte paintings for the exterior of Snake Mountain and the interiors for Skeletor's palace were drawn up by production designer William Stout. He had drawn up a series of byways throughout the floor plan, complete with small rivers of lava flowing around Skeletor's throne room. Originally, the throne room set of Castle Grayskull was too large, and the wall between the sets was knocked down to make one gigantic soundstage. At that time, it was the largest set Hollywood had seen for over 40 years. Plans for Snake Mountain were shelved before the set was built due to the film's limited budget. The Snake Men and She-Ra were featured in the early drafts of the film. Stout got approval from director Goddard for his redesigned She-Ra costume, but due to extreme budget cuts, the Snake Men and She-Ra were cut from the film. The original budget of $17 million escalated to $22 million, and Masters of the Universe would officially become Cannon Films' most expensive film. The studio's budget for Superman 4: The Quest for Peace was lowered in order for Masters of the Universe to be made. This decision would eventually bankrupt the studio. Cannon added $7 million to the film's shooting schedule, which extended the production for 7 more weeks. Director Goddard pleaded to Cannon Studios to extend the shooting schedule for 1 more day. To finish the final battle sequence, they would grant him 1 extra day. Originally, the fight scene between He-Man and Skeletor was supposed to end with Skeletor falling over the altar and through the big circular window behind him, but this could not be done due to the Castle Grayskull set already being pulled apart by the studio. For the final battle between He-Man and Skeletor, the fight scene was rushed to be finished, so it was decided that Skeletor fall into a bottomless pit at the end. Cannon Films actually intended to create a sequel, which was indicated after the end credits when Skeletor survives his fall and comes out of the water saying, "I'll be back." For this scene, actor Frank Langella was placed into a tank filled with red water. Unfortunately, there was never a sequel and the project was abandoned because Cannon, who were almost broke, wouldn't pay fees owed to Mattel, and the production of the sequel, titled Masters of the Universe 2: Cyborg, was scrapped and turned into the film Cyborg in 1989, starring Van Damme, which would make great use out of the costumes and sets already made. Masters of the Universe had so many talented people working on the film, including effects expert Richard Edlund, who made do with the limited budget given, but the effects were still impressive for the small budget they had to work with. For the music store battle on Earth, where the villains marched down the street, it was filmed in Whittier, California. For the miniature shots set on Earth, the special effects team at Boss Film Studios reused some buildings left over from the films Blade Runner and Ghostbusters to fill out the background. During production, director Goddard would develop the TV movie Captain Power and the Soldiers of the Future, which would premiere on US television in 1987. Finding the right actor to play He-Man was important. Their first and only casting choice was Dolph Lundgren, who had just come off the success of Rocky IV, playing the villain Drago. He-Man would be Lundgren's first leading role in a feature film.
He-Man is the hero of the 80s. He's a very clean hero, a very kind of an old-fashioned good guy who's not excessively violent. He is intelligent, has a good sense of humor, and he always saves the good people from the bad people.
His voice was originally going to be dubbed over by another actor due to his heavy Swedish accent, but in the end there was no money left in the budget, so they ended up using Lundgren's voice. Unfortunately, half of his lines were swallowed up by the other cast members, who would either finish the line with him or for him. For the role of Skeletor, Frank Langella was offered the part, which he immediately accepted without even reading the script. The makeup for Skeletor was designed by Michael Westmore, who was makeup man for Star Trek The Next Generation, and the Skeletor mask would be reused in The Next Generation. Meg Foster, the actress with the striking blue and grey eyes, was cast in the role of Evil Lynn. Her costume weighed a reported 45 pounds, and the actress sustained bruises to her groin from the breastplate she wears throughout the film. Foster has said that the breastplate was constructed of fiberglass, which restricted her movements, which is why Evil Lynn is never shown sitting. Masters of the Universe was Courtney Cox's first major film role, and Brian Duncan McNeil, a number of years before he played Tom Paris in TV's Star Trek Voyager, would play Cox's love interest. Incidentally, actress Christina Pickles, who plays the Sorceress, plays the mother of Courtney Cox's character, Monica, on the popular TV series Friends. Teela is played by Chelsea Field. Famous character actor Billy Barty would play Gwildor. Detective Lubick was played by James Tolkien, known mostly for his role as Principal Strickland in the Back to the Future trilogy. Courtney Cox's father in the film is played by Masters of the Universe stunt coordinator Walter Scott. Dolph Lundgren said working on the film was a nightmare. The shooting schedule was 5 months, including 2 months of night shooting.
This shoot actually was much, much harder than Rocky IV, physically. My hair caught fire one time. I got a few sword hits in my head. For 2 weeks, I was standing on this disc. One was on the side of a truck, and there were cameras rigged, and he was sitting on some kind of swivel like this. And the truck would run down the main street of this town at 40 miles an hour, but there's nothing to hold on to. Because you can't, you have to keep your balance just by using your body weight. You have to get into it and feel like you're there, and it's real. And that is hard.
Director Gary Goddard, during production, worked closely with Lundgren, making changes to the original script, adding more action sequences, which would strengthen the role of He-Man. The musical score of Masters of the Universe was composed by Bill Conti, well-known composer of film scores for the Karate Kid franchise and the Rocky films. Conti creates an epic Star Wars-style score which fits the movie perfectly. Despite the success of the toy line and the animated series, the film, after a successful weekend opening, started to fail at the box office and was considered a letdown for the studio and Mattel. With a budget of $22 million, the film made a loss and only made $17.5 million at the box office. Mattel released a few toys based on the movie, as well as a mini comic called The Cosmic Key that was released with the toys. Sadly, with the commercial failure of Masters of the Universe, along with the other canon films, including Superman 4, the studio would go broke and out of business. Masters of the Universe could have been something amazing. With a bigger budget, the film had some incredible talents working on the production, but due to too many budget cuts by Canon and a rushed finish, the film was sadly doomed from the start. Regardless of its many flaws, the film is a fun adventure film with some amazing scenes with great action sequences. Unfortunately, these many great moments couldn't save the film. The effects were impressive and still hold up today. I didn't mind Dolph Lundgren in the film, and Frank Langella is fantastic in the role of Skeletor, and certainly looks like he relishes the role. In fact, it was his favourite role. You can certainly see this in every scene he appears in. My name's Jonathan. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video and like what you see on my channel, please subscribe And if you would like to become a patron on my Patreon, click on the link below.